That's a pretty stiff one to start with, I guess. It's a heavy subject matter, a lot to get through. So let's jump right in. When we're talking about ideology, we're not really talking about like the big I ideology, the capital I ideology that you hear about on the news or on the radio or TV. The kind of monolith constructing concept of ideology where we use the word a lot, creating these huge walls between things like communism, capitalism, Islamofascism, and whatnot. I'm more interested, and I find more interesting, the little I ideology. Little I is in its coercive and like perverse, and it interacts with us on so many different levels, like subconsciously almost, influencing the way we interact with people, influencing the way we interact with government or how government interacts with us, informing our day-to-day kind of life and our decisions. It's kind of interesting, and I use the little I mostly because it's, well, insidious, coercive, you know, it gets in there, gets into you. I guess the best way to kind of look at the differences, like the big I ideology creates these huge, massive concepts that we're supposed to fear or love or whatever, like let's say capitalist democracy. Whereas the little I seems to be entirely in support of a power mechanism or power mechanics, you know, the authority between two groups, or within a group, let's say, between the governed and the government, or the leaders and those who nominally need to be led. We're going to jump into it a little bit today, going quickly through the concept of the little I ideology, which I'll refer to here as just ideology. Just want to keep in mind that there is a difference between the big I and the little I. A good way to, I guess, look at the whole concept of ideology and how it interacts with us is, like, let's take that scene in Clerks 2 where Randall, he makes that guy puke because he's over the Star Wars Lord of the Rings discussion. That's just the fact the guy pukes is pretty important, let alone with the interaction between the two, how they both view Star Wars, one of them views Star Wars and the other one views Lord of the Rings as being representative of something and giving them meaning. But it can get to a point where, you know, someone pukes because the other guy's insulting it. It's so visceral, it's so deep, it's so like embedded within the concept of how we interact with meaning, which separates it from the cultural a little bit. Like, ideology is kind of a filter. Let's say culture is the baseline. We're talking about Occidental concepts of culture and ideology here. So let's just try and think about it in the Western sense for now. But I mean, you get the idea of culture, like the symbol giving, meaning making, worldview expressing basis of a lot of community driven interactions or social interactions. And then you put this filter over it that maybe makes the meaning, certain things in that meaning more important, certain things less important. All of a sudden it's not so much about determining the worldview as it is in determining the authority of our interactions within the community. Looking at ideology as something of a filter between, let's say, the base culture-driven concept of meaning, or the meaning given to the individual by culture, intersubjective meaning, shared throughout individuals, among individuals throughout a community. If you look at ideology as being a filter of that culture, like I said, things start to take, meaning gets to be modified and nuanced. I'm a big fan of Clifford Geertz, an anthropologist who wrote a lot about cultural systems such as religion and ideology. And I find that once this filter is applied, you start to see cognitive dissonance, or the ability for cognitive dissonance to exist. So like you take bipartisan politics in the United States, you get the Democrats and the Republicans who, you know, nominally represent different facets, different expressions of ideas, we might even go back to the big I ideology. When you actually get down to it, you start, kind of pulling the layers off of that onion, you start to realize that they share the same coercive baseline endgame concepts and ideology, from purchasing your T-shirts to your MacBook or your IBM, whatever. It's all in service of the maintenance of this power structure, and the bipartisan nature ceases to be so bipartisan. Well, there you go. That'll be it for the first episode of Fetishes and Fantasy on Dead Center Radio. I'm Kikila Perrin. Thank you very much.